You're about to spend the next 15 minutes agreeing with a terrorist. And I need to be honest with you up front. That's not a trick. He has a point. He just paid for it in the worst way a human being can. So before the helmet, before any of the things you've watched him do on a screen, start here. A boy, watching the people he loved get marched somewhere they were never going to walk back from. And the rest of the world? It found something else to look at. So he made himself a promise, standing right there. Never again. Never powerless again. Not him, not ever. Which leaves one question. And it's the only question this whole video is really about. When the world has already tried to erase you once, how far do you get to go to make sure it can never try again? 1930s Germany. A jeweler's workbench, a lamp, and an old man slowly going blind over his work, and joking about it, because what else is there to do? Beside him, a 9-year-old builds a tiny chain out of scavenged scrap, just to prove to his father that he can. His family calls him Max, and honestly, that's all he is yet. A bright kid who hides how bright he is, with a crush on a girl he can barely say a word to. So watch what his country decides to teach him instead. At school, they line the boys up half-dressed and measure them like cattle. One teacher actually pulls him aside to warn him. "You're gifted," he says, "genuinely gifted. So be careful, because around here, the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered flat." So they hand him a javelin, and he throws it further than anyone at that school has ever thrown one. And his reward for winning? They accuse him of cheating. So they make him do it all again. Heavier spear, whole school watching, the entire thing engineered for him to fail. And something in him, something he can't name, something nobody in 1930s Germany has a word for yet, makes that heavier spear fly even farther. He wins again. And they expel him anyway, because the Reich, they tell him, has no room for a cheating Jewish boy. So here's the lesson he actually walks away with that day. It was never that he wasn't good enough. It's that being good enough was never going to be the thing that saved him. So the war comes, and when it does, none of it matters anymore. Not the medals, not the grades, not that record-breaking arm. His family runs. Poland, then Warsaw. And in Warsaw, a wall goes up around them overnight. 10 feet of it. 500,000 people sealed inside. Broken glass and barbed wire along the top. And the comic doesn't round the numbers off for you, because they were real. 184 calories a day. 2,000 people starving to death every single month. So how do you survive something like that? His uncle has an answer, and he drills it into the boy. Keep your head down. Don't give them a reason. You beat them by staying alive. And for a while, that holds. Until one night, the truth comes over a rooftop, and it turns out the trains everyone's being loaded onto don't go to any work camp at all. The people are told they're going for showers. Then they're killed in those showers. That is what the trains are for. So the family decides to run one more time. And on the way out, his father stops him and hands him the last thing he'll ever give him. Not a plan, a kind of permission. There are moments, his father tells him, when the whole world lines up, and for 1 second, a single person can actually change what happens. And the sin isn't taking that moment. The sin is letting it pass you by. So they run, and at the river, in the dark, the soldiers are already waiting for them. They're lined up at the edge of a pit that's already been dug. The rifles come up. They fire. And the bullets stop. In the air. Ringed in light around one outstretched hand. This is the instant his power arrives, at the exact moment of his total helplessness. And here's the cruelest part. It isn't enough. It saves him. only him. So he survives. He survives the ghetto, and then he survives Auschwitz, the place there is supposed to be no surviving. And when it's finally over, he sits down in the ruins and writes all of it down. He signs it with his real name, the first time we ever get to hear it, Max Eisenhardt. And he asks one thing of whoever finds it. Tell the people who listen. Tell the ones who won't. Just don't ever let this happen again. So hold on to that last line, because everything this man becomes for the next 60 years of comics is that one sentence, taken completely literally. So the boy grows up, and for one short stretch of his life, he actually gets to be an ordinary man. He marries that girl he could never talk to, and they have a daughter. For one moment, he has the exact thing the war tried to take from him, a family of his own. But the world takes it from him a second time. His daughter, murdered. And when his grief makes him lash out with what he can do, his wife, Magda, runs from him, terrified of what she's just seen. So he ends up exactly where he started, alone, holding the ashes of a family and a power nobody alive can stop. So how do you come back from that a second time? You don't, really. And years later, he explains what it did to him in what might be the coldest, clearest sentence in any of these comics. He remembers his own childhood. He remembers the guards at Auschwitz, laughing while they herded his family to the gas chambers. He remembers being worth precisely nothing to them. And so, he says, human lives became worth nothing to him. So sit with that, because it's the whole engine of him. It isn't hate, it's arithmetic. The world already proved to him, in the most total way imaginable, exactly what people will do to other people they've decided don't count. And he swore he would never stand at the edge of that pit again. Not him, and not anyone the world might decide next time doesn't count. So he will burn the whole thing down before he lets it build that machinery a second time. That's the promise underneath everything. Now watch the world meet the man who made it. So here's how the rest of the world met this exact same man. No pit, no ghetto, no context. Just this. 1963. A man in a helmet walks into a United States missile base, completely alone, and takes it. Bullets stop in the air around him. He doesn't even hurry. And he tells them exactly who he is. He hands them a name to be afraid of. Magneto. So he lays out the plan. Humanity, he announces, has forfeited its claim to the planet. The day of the mutants has arrived, and he intends to make ordinary humans kneel to whatever comes next. So he plants his flag, and he dares the whole world to come take it back. And to 1963, that is the entire character. A comic book villain in a cape who hates people and wants to rule them. The end. But you were just standing at that pit, so you know something 1963 didn't. You know exactly where a survivor gets the idea that they can never let the world hold the power again. And that changes everything, doesn't it? Because it isn't hate. It's the single most reasonable conclusion a survivor of that could ever reach, just aimed at the entire human race. So that's the trick of him. Everyone in that room sees a madman declaring war on humanity. You see a man making absolutely certain the showers never get built again. So let me ask you the question this entire character is built to force you to ask. Was Magneto wrong? And I want to start with the answer his oldest enemy gives, not in a speech, privately, standing over his sleeping body with every reason on earth to hate him. She looks down at him lying there, and what she thinks is this. Whatever else he has done, this man is not, at his core, evil. That in another life, he could have been one of them, or any of them, one of him. And she can think that because she knows what he lost. So did his family once, and they did everything right. His father bled for Germany in the First World War, came home decorated, and he held that medal up as proof that his family belonged, that they had earned their place. It stopped absolutely nothing. But the comic flatly refuses to let his loss become an excuse, and it puts the rebuttal in the mouth of one of the very people he's fighting to save.
"I don't want your world," this one tells him, a man made of living metal mid-fight. "I don't want the future you're offering us, because you're building it on a mountain of murdered innocence, and I will not allow it." And here's the deepest proof of all that he isn't a monster. In the end, he can't live with his own method either. When his rage accidentally kills a 13-year-old girl in a single reflex, the villain just evaporates. And what's left is a man cradling a child's body, unable to breathe, asking what he has done. So, was he wrong? The comic finally answers it in his own voice, kneeling in the wreckage of everything he built. The dream, he says, was never the problem. A world where his people are finally safe, that dream was good. It's still good. The problem is what he had to become to chase it. The dreamer is the part that got corrupted. So that's the whole tragedy right there. Not a villain who wanted the wrong thing, a survivor who wanted the only thing, and let the wanting turn him into the exact people who taught him to want it. So let me show you the version of this man I honestly can't get out of my head. Not the villain, the father. Because there is a story where he basically wins, not the missile base, everything. His own daughter rewrites reality itself, and in the new world she makes, mutants are safe, mutants are on top, and his family rules all of it. The man who could never keep his children alive is suddenly a king who can. But strip all of it away, the crown, the kingdom, the speeches, and listen to him when the mask is completely off. Here he is as just a parent who failed. He put his children through hell, he says, for what he believed. He waged his war on humanity, and he lost it. And now, on top of the war, he has lost his kids too. So what is actually underneath all of it? The supremacy, the terror, the war on an entire species? Underneath, it was always one survivor, trying to build the single thing the world stole from him. A place where the people he loves don't die. And in this one story, he gets it. He actually gets it. For one strange, quiet stretch, the dream comes true. His children are alive, he is not powerless, and nobody is coming to take it away. Sit in that for a second. So of course the dream comes apart. But here's the twist. It doesn't come apart because the heroes beat him. It comes apart because it was never really his to begin with. It turns out his own son engineered the whole paradise, built it in his father's name, powered it with his sister's broken mind, and never told him a thing. So when the man finally realizes it, he turns on his own boy. "What have you done in my name?" he roars. "You used your sister and you used me, and I would never in 1,000 years have allowed this." So he strikes his own son down, and his daughter watches him do it. The daughter whose shattered mind is the only thing holding this entire dream together. So she gives him the one verdict that could ever actually land on a man like this. Not that he's evil. Worse than that. She tells him they were never the next step in anything. They're not gods. They're not chosen. They're just freaks. Look at us, Dad. So she says 3 words, and reality just obeys. And here's the horror of it. The dream where mutants are finally safe forever ends with almost every mutant on Earth simply ceasing to be one. A population of maybe 1 million, gone down to a handful in a heartbeat. His victory erases the exact people it was supposed to save. And him?
the man who ruled the whole world an hour ago, ends the story like this. Powerless, human, on his knees in the ruins of his own kingdom, digging food out of the rubble with his bare hands. Someone puts a blade to his throat and asks him where his daughter is. And the man who commanded reality itself an hour ago doesn't know. He genuinely doesn't know.
So let's go all the way back to where we started. The helmet, the terrorist, the man you were never supposed to agree with. And none of what I've just shown you erases any of it. He is a terrorist. He is a mass murderer. The comics never once pretend otherwise, and neither will I. But he might also be the one figure in 60 years of these stories who keeps turning out to be right about the single thing he cares about most, that the world, handed the chance, will do it again. He watched it happen once, and he walked away having learned exactly one lesson. Never be powerless. Never trust them. Never again.
So here's where I have to leave it with you, because I honestly don't think there's a clean answer. You've heard the whole case now. You get to decide. Did he learn the wrong lesson from the worst thing a person can survive? Or did he learn the only one that was ever really on offer? Because we just watched a man lose everything he loved and let that loss turn him into the very thing he hated. So maybe the real question was never about him at all. Maybe it's about you. If the world had taken everything from you once, then asked you, calmly, to trust it again, how sure are you that you'd say no to the helmet? Sit with that one. It's why this man refuses, 60 years on, to stay the villain the world needs.